Hello, everybody. Here we are, R&R. Rick, good to see you this morning.
Good to see you.
It's good to be together. This is just a tremendous time, kind of a wild time in the earth right now. Lots of crazy things going on. But we're here. We've been doing these podcasts, just really visiting around the issues of law enforcement, what's happening in the earth, but to really try to be an encouragement to men and women who do this great job every single day of their lives, willing to sacrifice everything. And man, I'm excited about what we're going to share and just talk about today, hang out a little bit. Hey, sip a little coffee.
Yeah.
There you go.
Cheers to you.
Cheers to
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
So I'm really excited because, like I said in the last podcast, is the response that we're getting, that we're seeing, and that we're hearing, and it's because many officers and their families are responding to the messages that are within these discussions. And I think the consistent theme I keep hearing from our officers is that when times like these are so rough and challenging,
Right.
the most challenging we've ever seen. I talked to retired officers who went back 40, 50 years in law enforcement, and they say without a doubt it's never been like this. And so I think the silver lining in that is that our officers are seeing that when times are at their worst, they quickly realize that where they were seeking value from the world, if you will, they see that it's not there to be found. And so it leaves them wondering, what is this really all about? And I think what officers, spouses, children of officers, even just residents in our community are seeing is that there is something bigger out there than just what's in front of us. And when we can get dialed into that, it gives some kind of meaning to the challenges that we're facing.
And I know that in my conversations with many officers, the challenges that they're facing and that we're facing today in life can leave you feeling like they're insurmountable, like it's just bigger than anything that we can overcome. The depth of the attack today is deeper than I've ever seen it, deeper than any officer has ever communicated to me they've experienced. Now they're saying, I don't know what to do. Over the years, which I'm sure you're well aware of that too, more than me, there was a great respect, even if somebody didn't necessarily love the fact that a law enforcement officer was on the scene or had to arrive at their worst moment, there was still an overall respect and honor for doing the job, right? Even among media, even among people who today we know are on an absolute vicious attack against officers and now even their families. Worse, and in ways we never imagined that would happen. That goes to the deepest level, the core level of a human being's existence, and that's the spirit. When you start wounding and attacking the spirit of a person, they find themselves in a place where they don't know what to do. You can get emotionally hard. You can get physically hard.
Both of which our officers do.
Our officers do, and they have to in some respect to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
When you see what you see every single day, you deal with death, you deal with what other humans do to other humans every day, there has to be a certain amount of hardness that comes just to be able to emotionally deal with all the things that you see and do. But when you attack the spirit of a person who already sacrifices so much, and you go to that deep level, if there's not something there to fortify and strengthen that spirit within that warrior's going to break.
Well, and that's where I want to really encourage our officers, right? Because I've been having the opportunity lately to talk to more and more in larger groups, now that, things are changing and at least transitioning back a little bit to where we can get back together some. it's given the opportunity just to remind our officers that, listen, again, when things seem to be at their worst, it's going to strip you down, and it's going to reveal what you're made out of.
That's
right?
right.
And like you were just saying, it'll ultimately dig down into the spirit. Well, what's good in that is it'll reveal where you are in your spirit life.
That's right. That's right.
Good, bad, or indifferent, it's going to reveal it. And I think here again, the positives that can come out of this is that our law enforcement profession can really drive back in and root themselves back into really what brought them to this point to begin with in the profession.
That's right.
Officers are sometimes surprised when they learn, just like we were talking about in the last podcast coming into this one, that the Word of God tells us that they are chosen. They're chosen
that's right.
for this. They're called to it.
They're called and chosen.
And that's what we were talking about, which is, our officers often will tell you that they were called to this profession. We ask them, who is it that does the calling? But what we really left off with last time is, when officers are being told who they are, what they do, and especially when it doesn't align with what they know the facts are, I just always encourage them to really ask this question: according to who?
Yeah.
And if you drive back into what people say about me, my sisters and brothers in law enforcement, my family, what we do, yeah, but according to who? And when you start looking at who is saying what, you quickly see that what is most important is that the creator of everything that exists called you to do this, not job, but calling. He called you to fulfill this calling upon your life. There's a security in that, because it plants you back into the middle of the truth about who you are and why you do what you do.
Well, it's the bedrock.
There you go.
It's the bedrock. If you're going to build a house, you don't want to build it on sand. Actually, there's even a story in the Bible
That's
where
right.
Jesus says, there's a man that built his house upon the rock and one that built his house upon the sand. Both built houses. Both did the same they were both house builders. They knew how to do it. However, one established the foundation and found bedrock, right, for his foundation. The other built his on the sand. During peaceful times, when everything's perfect and wonderful, both houses stood. The one that remained after the storm and during the storm, and there are going to be storms of life, and oh my.
Are we in the storm now?
Are we in the storm now? The one that remained was the one that was built upon the rock. So you have to go to the core of your belief system and your faith and understand that if it's not founded on the rock, which again, one of Jesus's titles is the rock of your salvation. If you don't go to the core rock foundation of your life, or if you go there and you find that it's just sifting sand, right? You just kind of, whatever somebody else says, you kind of shift that direction. That's what sand does. It's little pieces of glass almost, or little tiny pebbles, and it shifts. It can shift with the wind. It can shift with the tide. It just moves in and out.
Yeah, let me speak to that for a moment, because, I see it all the time. I've lived it, right? Many of our officers, right, they finally get their legs up underneath them in the job that they're doing. They start to build some level of confidence. They also start to get some kind of a steady stream of income and whatnot. And then we quickly see officers start to say, hey, they judge their existence and their success in life, right, or family life, based on the toys they can obtain and the great vacations they want to take. And I see it all the time. I see guys that over leverage themselves and buying the latest, greatest, truck and with the lift kit in it, and they got the the motorcycle in the garage. They've got the home that they really cannot afford. They're working more part-time off-duty employment, trying to make it all come together, and what they eventually realize is, try as you might, this world can't offer you the things that are going to truly satisfy your soul. And when I see officers have,
That's right.
And I keep talking about officers, what I found myself is, the more that I poured the worldly things in, trying to fill this hole in my being, right? To fill that sense of satisfaction, if you will, in life, value, what it is that I'm here for, you find that you're just pouring into a vessel that will remain empty until you start filling it with this stable thing, right? Which is, again, what we're talking about here, right? A biblical perspective on policing, and quite frankly, unapologetic about it.
Absolutely.
That we want to take the opportunity to point the peacekeepers to the Prince of Peace, the one who this whole book, the Bible, is all about, who the Bible spends time telling you, what's coming, who's coming.
Right.
Then it tells you that he's here. Then it tells you that he's coming back. And what do you do in preparation before that?
When we talk about officers being called and chosen, see, a lot of times officers who are maybe young officers fresh on, or maybe a hardened officer who has seen so many things, they have difficulty wrapping their heart around that, because they didn't have this big light that came shining into their bedroom and a voice or angel choir singing, and so they look at those type things as, well, I didn't have that. Yet you and I have talked many times about that deep inner voice that they knew that this was what I was supposed to do. Moses in the Bible, Exodus, he led God's children, Israel, out of Egypt, out of slavery. He had a burning bush experience, right? He had an epiphany. I mean, when you look at a bush, it's burning, yet it's not burning up, but it's on fire, and a voice speaks to you. That's a pretty cool deal.
It's on fire and not being consumed.
Yeah.
Right?
We would probably put that in our diary, I'm pretty sure. Make a note somewhere on our iPad or our phone. I saw a bush burn today. It wasn't consumed.
That's something that as an officer you get put in the CAD, right?
Yeah,
you mark the run.
That's right. You mark that run quick. That's a story to be told sitting around the table for sure. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Rick and I trust that you heard something that will help your life. And if you believe that it would help others, please make sure and share. Like and subscribe and hit that bell so that you can be notified when the next podcast is available. God bless you, and we'll see you soon.